To what extent do you think schools are colluding in this as well? Do you think that schools are indoctrinating kids, or at least making it easier for other people to indoctrinate kids into this trans ideology? I know you started on your iPad and watching YouTubers, and then when that was shut down and taken away from you by your parents, you turned to the school library. How did that play into everything?
Yeah, so back in 2012, I mean, I did bring up the trans topic with one of my like PE teachers. And she asked me, "Wait, do you think you're transgender?" And I had a good feeling that if I told her yes, that she would have told my parents, and that was against the rules. So I was like, "Oh, no, no, I'm just interested in this topic." But I was like a tomboy, like like I was like very, gender nonconforming. So like that would have been her assumption, and I just totally, I was like, "Oh, no, no, no." Um, but these days, the landscape around this has just totally changed. I mean, in a lot of schools, and with Trump's executive orders that basically have banned any federal funding being used to medically transition young people under the age of 19, and his executive order that's like ending, radical ideologies within K-12 education, which includes like the secret social transition of kids. Like, I don't know how the latter is going to be implemented, and how these schools are going to be policed. But we've known that for the last several years, there have been schools who've been secretly transitioning kids behind their parents' backs. And so, yeah, schools collude with it. I mean, even back in my day, and I feel old, I'm 25, but I feel ancient, frankly, because this issue has gotten so radical so quickly, and it's gone so mainstream so quickly that, like, I mean, it definitely seems as if, I mean, we know that schools are colluding with this, and um, I mean, and we know that, like, I mean, hell, even back in my day, like in my high school, in the last year of my high school education, which would have been 2016 to 2017, I grew up in a very woke kind of Pacific Northwest city, and I went to a very woke high school, public high school, and in the last year of my education, I was offered classes such as critical race theory or critical race studies and queer history. So those were
Wow.
year-long classes. So I took 2 year-long classes. One of them was the critical race studies class, and the other one would have been the queer history class. And those programs, both of those started in my last year of high school, 2016 to 2017. And I think that, these woke cities, they were doing it earlier, but I presume that around the same time, these, other schools have been really taking an activist position. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of collusion, just a ton of collusion with schools. I mean, the whole like filling out pronoun surveys, and they'll give kids options not only of a myriad of different pronouns, but of like, who do you want to know these pronouns? Can we tell your parents, or do we not tell your parent? Like, it's it's really insane the way that these schools are driving wedges, between kids and parents. And also the school libraries play a large role. And even before there was this kind of uniform sort of onslaught against kids of like schools colluding with these children to kind of amplify their distress and to keep this all a secret from parents, like back when there were just kind of the building blocks of what would later become this, schools, like in my middle school, there were some like LGBT books. And we're not just talking about like, innocent books about like, boy has a crush on another boy. Like there was one book like that, but there were also a couple books that were just, it was just straight up like an LGBT anthology from like the 90s or the early 2000s, probably from the late 90s. And they, discussed like the topic of transition in there. And, when I looked up those books, when I, there was like this slip of paper that shows who checked out the book and when, and nobody had checked those books out. Like I was the only one, because it's not a normal, like the topic of sex changes is not like the normal topic of interest of like your average 12-year-old, especially in 2012. So I was probably the only one reading those books for years. But like
What
what
did
kids
those
are being
books
exposed
say?
to now is way worse. Like way worse. Like I have with me a book that's been in multiple school libraries, and I'm now the unfortunate owner of it. And it's this book, Genderqueer.
Wow. And what does that
Um,
book say?
yeah. Oh, what is this? Well, we can look through it together. I mean, this book, there's this infamous scene. I don't know if you can see it.
And
You see
that's
this?
that's in school libraries. Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, this is in a lot of, yeah.
Wow.
And there are
High
multiple,
school
multiple
libraries or like
like
middle
sex
school?
scenes. So from my understanding, like, some schools are like K-12, some schools are 6 to 12, grade 6 to 12, some schools are just high schools. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I know that there was a parent who complained about her 11-year-old having looked through this book, and I mean,
Wow.
even this book basically goes from, pretty kind of like, somewhat tame, like this story of like a tomboy, and then, she discusses basically throughout the course of the book, like having her, you know, first, like she was a tomboy and she kind of thought she was like born in the wrong body, but she didn't have words for it. And then as the book continues, like she talks about basically having her like first experience of sexual arousal being 12 years old and imagining that she has a penis. Let's see if I can find that. um, and so she discusses that, and then she kind of, you know, goes throughout the book just discussing like, you know, her, I guess, her gender journey, quote unquote.
So
There are some
I have a
kind of
question.
sexually explicit scenes, and then there's just a lot of trans ideology interspersed throughout. And it's it's a book. It's like a children's. It's the author herself admitted that she didn't write it for kids, but like, she's a comic book writer. These are graphic novels. Kids and
Mhm.
teens love graphic novels. This book has been given the award, the Alex Award. It appears for teen readers, the teen and adult books.
Wow.
They're already lumping teen and adult books together. And this author herself has said, like, yeah, I never meant this book to be written for kids. But
Wow.
yet, this book is still, it's offered in libraries.